Go ahead.
I just have one thing I was thinking about was, I think it's an agenda item. It was to do with the older plaques that are around the township. I don't know if there's any way they can be cleaned. I was looking at the one at Memory Junction the other day, and it's quite, the face of it is quite, I don't know if it's deteriorated or if it's dirty or what the condition of it is. Yeah.
First, we actually need to get a mover and a seconder for the motion for the approving the minutes.
Okay.
Right, and then we can have discussion, but it should be just a discussion on whether the minutes are correct or not. If we have business, we can deal with that probably later on, right?
Right. Okay.
Did you want to add that, Susan, then to the agenda?
Well, if it has to be added, yeah. Something I'd noticed, and I could look into this summer maybe on that kind of situation with the older plaques that are around the community.
All right, so.
Okay, so let's add it. A2.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can we have a motion and a mover for the approval of the agenda? That's Ron, or Laura and Ron.
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay. All right. Okay, is there any declarations of pecuniary interests? And here's part 4, adoption of the minutes from the April meeting. Any changes or modifications we think we need? No? Okay, we need a mover and a second. Susan?
Move the minutes be approved.
Okay. And I guess I'll second. All right. So do we have any declarations, Tom, at the last minute? No?
No delegations today. So I just wanted to give a heads up that Paul, I believe, is attending the meeting. I'm waiting to see, because we were talking earlier and he wanted to add, or he had something he wanted to put in correspondence. So
okay.
If you're okay with it, Mr. Chair, can we hold off on correspondence until
Paul checks in? That should be fine. I don't see any problem with that.
To be honest, we need him for the first 2 items as well, 7.1 and 7.2.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Okay, I just sent him the link again. I'm hoping that he grabs that soon here.
Perhaps we can move on to 8 about the Heritage web page.
Sure.
And this is just probably conversation at the moment, unless somebody's got a real concrete idea for our addition to the municipality webpage. By the next meeting, I'd like to have all the walking tour pamphlets reviewed by the committee and them put up as PDFs for everybody on the Brighton website as our contribution. I've had a few clarifications on some information I had earlier and that, so I'd like to see that done. Anybody have any other ideas they'd like to see?
Would you be able to circulate that prior to posting it
Oh yeah, I want
to the group?
I want the committee to review it first before
Oh,
it gets
okay.
posted up there, because
Great.
Tom, I'm going to have to pass it to you to post it up on the website, so we'll get a complete review of it, all the information, and then it'll go up sometime after, I guess it'll be sometime after 5th of July, something like that. If we agree, unless we want to make changes to it. But I thought it would be something new. We might even be able to get a bit of radio or press coverage, because we'd like a little bit of publicity about this, and it's going to be there for a long time, and people are going to, there's enough people asking about the history and heritage of this town. Now, if you're following the Facebook pages and that, people are really getting interested. We have comments in the hundreds about different things that have gone on. So that's where I'm thinking.
Anything we need to review, though, we should have in advance of the meetings. We can
Yes.
take a look at it. And also, the municipality has the final word on anything, because there are certain things that we can and cannot do. But Tom would know more about that. But I'm not sure who would review anything we do, but someone would have to review it as well after the committee has decided on it. Or,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know the best process. Maybe Tom can give us an idea.
Yeah, one thing we could do is, like, basically the process would be, you guys give it to me. I check with any bylaws or anything that I need, that I'm aware of. Then I would pass it to Ben Hagerman, who's the manager of economic development and communications, for like the final sort of, yeah, looks good. And then it would go up. But what I'm thinking is maybe it'd be beneficial to actually have him possibly at the meeting. Like if we have something to review, it might just be good to have that right in the meeting, sort of everyone's approval, and then it goes.
That sounds like a good idea. He's been around in the past and that, and maybe he'll have an opinion too, or some suggestions at least. Okay.
It looks like our new planning department friend, Mr. Josh Berry, has joined. Josh, I think your title is Manager of Approvals, but I'll leave a little bit of an introduction to you just for the group there.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, I'm the new Manager of Approvals in the Planning Department. So I'm working directly with Paul Walsh. So I'll be attending these meetings on occasion.
Do you know if Paul's planning to attend?
I'm not sure.
Okay, he hasn't replied to me since this morning, but unfortunately, 3 of the items were for him to speak to. So we're kind of buying some time right now.
Question to the chair. The information that you're looking at for the website, are you going to email that to each individual on the committee here?
Yes, at least a week before the next committee meeting, so we can review it. I'm hoping to have a PDF that can sit on the website and a PDF that could be printed out. So formatted two different ways, so it could be useful, or if somebody wants to print it out, or somebody who just wants to look at the website.
Okay, thank you.
On that too, Mr. Chair, we can just include that as part of the agenda package as well.
Okay, yeah.
And then everyone's got it in the book there.
Yes, it should actually. I was going to mention that too, because our meetings are for public knowledge. So anyone should be able to review what we're going to be talking about at our meeting. So should go through to Tom.
Right. Okay. Still learning.
No problem. Was there any other like specific points about for data we want on that webpage?
No. What's up there now is just a list of heritage homes and listed homes. And it's been reviewed, and haven't heard any comments about that list at all, except internally at a committee meeting. So I don't think that's interesting enough for the public at the moment. So the sooner we can replace it, the better. Laura?
I think it would be great if we were able to feature a couple of heritage properties and then have the listing so that visually people can read about maybe a couple of, if that's a possibility, a couple of our more interesting heritage properties like we do with plaques, but have that information there maybe. It may take a little bit for us to write up the info, pull it together just like we do with the plaque, but that would be great to see. And then maybe links to some of the walking paths and that sort of thing would be great. I know, Tom, you were talking about some of the accessibility requirements that, changes what we can put up on there. Is there anything we should know about that we can't do anymore because of accessibility, or are there workarounds for everything so we can still do those sorts of things?
Yeah, there's workarounds. What's coming down the pipe right now is sorry, brain's not working right now. Well, a piece of software, let's say, it's not the right word, but that staff is going to be trained on to convert PDFs, Word documents, basically anything, into accessible documents, universally accessible. So we're getting trained on that, I believe, later this month. So it might work out perfect timing wise, where if we get like a PDF, well, it'll have to be vetted through that software first. But basically, yeah, everything that goes up on our website will go through that software first. So, yeah. On your note about the plaques, I think that's a good idea, Laura. Like, I'm thinking what we could do is, because we only have a handful of plaques, right? Like, I don't know how many exactly, but
I think we have more than what we sometimes think. But
Oh.
yeah, the similar
I thought there
idea
were
plaques. Yep, go ahead, Robert.
I thought there was somewhere 13 to 16 plaques around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
okay.
Nancy, do you remember how many we have?
I was thinking around 12 anyway, for sure.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be great to have that sort of a thing on our websites when they pull up the heritage, they can see whether it be a feature, proctor. We can have a few different ones that we feature, right? And tell the story of what happened, or how they came to be.
Yeah. Were you suggesting to take the listings down from the website?
I don't think so. I think maybe that'll end up being a third or fourth page after other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
sort
think
of
it's important
shuffled
to-
back. It's good to have it still there as a working document, but yeah, I think it still should be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. That and the designations, we can add the plaques and maybe some links to the Ontario Heritage Trust that explains what a designation is, what a listing is, you know, just to clarify what the committee does and, you know, what types of things are in place, you know, as far as heritage, the Heritage Act and that sort of thing.
Would you
Maybe
like?
very boring, but
Would you like maybe to come up with the URLs or a paragraph, and you could do the intro for Ontario Heritage? Because
Yeah.
you're a little more familiar with it than I am.
Yeah, so well, I'm just suggesting that we put down what a listing is, very, you know, and so we can link it through the Ontario Heritage Trust, right?
Right. Sounds good.
Because that's what we sort of go by is the Ontario Heritage Act. So that's
Okay.
what we do as a committee. So, yeah.
That sounds good. Tom,
Okay.
did you have something?
Yeah, it's just like for sort of to get a picture of what it's gonna sort of look like in the end. What I'm seeing is probably a series of like drop-down menus. So all on one page. So, you know, you'd have maybe like Nancy's point there, like there would be one sort of accordion drop down that's about Ontario heritage, that sort of background information. Maybe one like this new idea for plaques, like information on the ones that we've issued plaques, like so you could have like a drop down, and then inside of that drop down, a series of drop downs for each plaque if we want. If you want to have that much info, it's totally fine. I think it'd be really experiential for the users as well. If you want to find out more about that, you click on the plus sign, boom, you get the info. And then so it'll be all on one page, but basically condensed by these accordion drop down menus.
Yeah, that sounds
Just to give you an idea of what it will look like.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to be limited by the amount of space we take on this website?
That was sort of my point there, is it'll still be all on one page. But so we'd be limited to the one page, but on that page, like I said, you can have as many of those drop down menus as you want, really, like to a certain extent. At some point it becomes, you know, sort of self-defeating for the user, I think, if there's too much information. So we'll just try to keep things condensed, but put up some fun things for people to go through, basically.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps we can link over with Brighton Digital Archive. So if we're looking for a visual image, they can tap over to this page on Brighton Digital Archive.
One more note there too. I think they actually just provided a bit of an update on that page for their committee. I think it just went up a couple weeks ago, I'm pretty sure. I haven't actually looked, but
yes,
something's been added there.
Mm-hmm. They're a little more organized, and we should follow suit, and looks like we are. Okay, so
so if I may, Mr. Chair, I think maybe we could check if Mr. Barry has anything to add on these couple of points, but other than that, we're kind of at the mercy of Mr. Walsh. Do you have a copy of the agenda in front of you, Josh?
I do, yes. So are you referring to section 7, reports and
Yeah.
business?
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not up to speed on any of those items. Mr. Walsh was handling those files.
Let's see if I've...
Okay. Well, I think perhaps if we deal with Susan's idea about the plaques as 7-4, and maybe we'll give them another couple minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
8.2, I think it was. 8.2.
Or 8.2. Okay.
I just a thought, if someone else comment, the earlier plaques, do they know how old they are? Do you know when they were put there? I imagine quite a while ago, quite a few years ago.
Nancy, has it been 8 years or 12 years since we had the first plaques?
I don't know when the Memory Junction plaque or the one in Memorial Park were placed. Those plaques were prior to any Heritage Advisory Committee. That's what I believe. Yeah. So I don't remember any. You know, I would have to say maybe around 2000 somebody's put them in, but so it's been a while for sure.
I don't think there's anything wrong with them. They just look like the surface of them were getting quite, they were harder to read because there's some sort of, either there's some sort of film on them or the discoloration, because they're different colors to the rest of the plaques that we've been doing.
I wonder if it was through the same company, if we could.
How they should be.
I don't know how we find out that information unless the Bangays have some information about it.
Yeah.
I think they look similar. The construction, the one at Memory Junction and Memorial Park.
Yeah,
they
do.
And
at the government dock and down in Gosport, that we probably ordered from the same company. Perhaps we could contact them if they have a care and maintenance program that we might be able to contact them about, or if they have suggestions for restoration of the surface. And that it might be something as easy as a auto detailer and a buffer and go over the surfaces and fill in the cracks like they do with automobiles these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. We'll just.
But Tom, you have you should have the contact information for our vendor. Could you?
It probably is in the record somewhere. I haven't obviously had to contact anyone for it, but I'll see what I can track down for sure.
Okay, it might just be a simple email and ask them if they have a maintenance or restoration protocol for their things, and something we can do, or a suggestion of something we can do internally here that we don't necessarily have to buy products from them, or something maybe we can have a summer student do or something.
Well, yeah, I was thinking of more staff around in the summertime, maybe, that might have projects like that could help out if it's necessary. But anyway, everyone else, just take a look when they go and buy Memory Junction and see what you think. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, does anybody have anything interesting to discuss about heritage-wise in town. We may just have to carry over reports till next meeting.
Tom, do you know if Paul is working in office or from home?
I'm not sure, actually. Josh might know if he's in the office.
I believe he's in the office today.
I'm just wondering if we can just check with him if we can. I don't know, Josh, if you're in the office or not, or whether we can just make contact, find out if he is. I don't know, he could be tied up or he could have forgotten. We don't know either way, but it's just so we know whether we can continue on or if we have to postpone.
Sure, I'm working from home, but I'll give a ring on his
okay.
cell and see if he's available.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I've emailed him a couple times here, but not getting a response otherwise.
He could be tied up with someone who's come in. We don't know, right?
Yeah. I'm just pulling up what I think I'll do is he shared something for correspondence here with me this morning. I'll just share my screen if I can get it opened up here, and then we can discuss it that way, that piece. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually didn't have a chance to look over it because I thought that Paul would review it for you guys, but updates to the Ontario Heritage Toolkit. Let's see.
Does everyone know what the toolkit is or have one?
Not sure. What?
There are a series of books. So it explains what designations are, what a heritage committee does, and so on.
Okay. So there's some updates, proposed summary.
Yeah, it's also on a disc too, a CD.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an update last year at this time also that we discussed last year.
Okay. Yeah, so it looks like they're seeking consultations about the updates here. So I guess maybe what we could do to save just reading through this page is I'll forward this link to everybody. Basically, it looks like I think what the idea would be is to read through the proposal details. And then if you wish, you can make comments. It looks like there's just you can make a comment right there. So I guess I would just maybe encourage everyone to have a look over those changes and submit a comment if you so desire.
That sounds like a good idea.
Oh, and here is Paul. Perfect timing.
Great.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Paul. I was just going over that piece of correspondence about the updates to the Ontario Heritage Toolkit.
Yes.
I don't know if you caught that, but we just said basically members are going to review that and submit comments based on what they find.
Great. I haven't had a chance to look at it, and I just it came in fairly recently, and I just want the committee members not to miss it.
Okay, so Paul, we're waiting to hear from you about heritage permit system.
Sure. Right now, we have, of course, the designated properties, but when they're going to be impacted by restoration or other work, maybe non-restoration, it could be a renovation of any generic type. There's really no process in place by which we review that building permit, or if permit's even required, to review that proposed work and making sure that that work is consistent with the attributes for which it was originally identified and listed and designated. So I think that it would be useful to bring in maybe a permitting bylaw for heritage impacts and improve it. I haven't finished looking to see if we had something in place, but to date I haven't found something of that nature. And perhaps committee members are aware of past procedures and processes that may have been established for that purpose.
Tom, would that just be for houses or properties that are designated so that like a special permit for that purpose? Is that what you're referring to?
No, so we have a designated property, and it's, perhaps it's designated because the building has certain architectural qualities that are significant and outstanding, and maybe someone hasn't really kept it up. Could be the brick is falling off and the cornices are no longer, half of them gone or whatever. And somebody comes in and says, well, it's a lot cheaper to remove all that and put up vinyl siding and ignore the cornices and just use your basic aluminum softened fascia, whatever. And meanwhile, see, there's some of the main attributes for which the building was originally designated. There's no process to say, whoa, stop that. You need to maintain the attributes for which it originally adopted by council as a heritage property.
Makes sense.
From what I understand, casually speaking, we were looking at buildings as being useful to the community first, and heritage buildings as one of their attributes to the quality of people occupying them and using them. Otherwise, we just have artifacts that were historic and people couldn't use them. This might be the right time to come up with a permit, non-permit agreement between the municipality and the property owner to work in a historic style, but possibly to make it the most livable, most useful to the property. Because if a property is not useful, it's, like I said before, an artifact. We have some properties on our list that have modifications, which makes it more practical to run businesses and residents already. One of them is 85 Main Street, has got an annex built on it. They have modified the original building slightly, but the annex is a new build, and I think it complements it because it makes it a living building, where we have some buildings that property owners would like to modify on Francis that want to clad the original bricks, which maybe a modified suggestion to them, maybe you don't need to clad it in vinyl. Perhaps you need to preserve the bricks in a better quality. I think there's useful space for a permit system, but maybe less bureaucratic. So if we spell it out exactly what we want from the property owners, the better. Put it right down in the beginning, and then there's no questions when they come and say they want to build a 4-story addition on a 150-year-old building or something like that. That's my opinion.
Through the chair.
Well, sorry, that's ideally what we do though with the designation is we do highlight the attributes of the building and how that's impacted if in the future, you know, that's
but it's not at the moment, it's not spelled out. We have commercial buildings that have stucco on Main Street. I don't want to see that anymore.
Those aren't listed buildings though either. And I don't think there's any constraints to a listed building, is there, Paul?
A listed building is really just a prohibition for a demolition, and the demolition is stayed or get put into abeyance and for 60 days until council may consider designating. And if council so considers not to designate, then the demolition can occur to a listed building.
Yeah.
The process that comes to mind is perhaps where my experience is from is having maybe a 2 permit system. One is minor heritage permits, allows people to kind of do what the chair is describing, making those renovations that are appropriate and generally smaller scale in nature. And then there's major heritage permits where there's a major change to the building, in particular the attributes for which it was originally identified. So to give some clear direction to an applicant, we would only need to go back to the original bylaw and say, can you maintain all these characters and characteristics? And if so, then away you go. You know, show us an elevation drawing of maintaining these details, and if you do that, then great. So examples where it might be a problem is if they are doing an addition and the roof line is very at odds with the original roof line, or the materiality is very at odds with the original materiality, if that was a priority in the original listing or designation description, not listing, but designation, sorry, and this sort of thing. So I think someone doing work on a building will get their direction from the actual attribute and then the designation bylaw.
Okay, that clarifies a lot for me. Thank you.
Welcome. I have some guidelines as well that I can utilize. I'll borrow them from Prince Edward County more or less, and there's a set of criteria used to distinguish between minor and major permits, and it works fairly smoothly.
Oh, good.
Tom?
Just going to suggest if that's to everyone's liking, that maybe there be a motion from the committee to recommend council direct staff to establish a heritage permit system. I don't know if we want to be more descriptive there, like 2-tier or something of that nature.
Let's keep it generic, and then we can modify, if we need to modify Paul's suggestions from Prince Edward County. We can do that at council level before it gets submitted to council.
Whatever we put in our minutes, whatever our motion is, what will go to council. Council shouldn't be adjusting it. Paul should give us the proper words now so that it's worded in a way that he can work with. I think that would be best, because when it comes to council, we're either going to be in favor or not. They're not as knowledgeable in this sort of thing, right? So we want to make sure it's really clear right from what we have in our minutes.
Okay.
And perhaps wording something like following that the Heritage Advisory Committee motions that council adopt a permitting system to ensure designated heritage properties are maintained in keeping with the attributes for which they were identified. And
Yes.
staff return with a set of criterion and procedures achieving same.
Perhaps we need not just designated, listed, and potential heritage properties. So,
Oh.
no, okay.
I
Yes,
wouldn't, I think, yeah, when you start, I think that could be a problem. I think there is, for listed properties and potential, then there's some confusion. I think you're just opening up a can of worms on that, but it's a little clearer. It's more distinct with the designation. It's, you know, you're really telling the community, you know, what these attributes are, and you know, and moving forward, it becomes clear to the property owner as well.
okay. So the motion is the Heritage Advisory Committee suggests that the council accept from planning department suggestion of a heritage permit system with 2 levels of permitting for changes to historic heritage property. Does that sound about right? Or
Here, I'll read what I wrote when Paul was speaking. I just kind of,
okay,
I just was trying to sort of bring it in. I had originally had something about a 2-tier thing there too, Robert, but I think Paul's is probably leaves it more open to then on the operational level, they might be able to just sort of make it fit depending on the level. But so what I have right now is that the committee recommend council direct staff to establish a heritage permit system to ensure designated heritage properties are maintained according to the attributes for which they were designated.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Because basically at that point, then you can take into account, is it minor or major, depending. Is that what you're kind of going for, Paul, or?
Yeah, I think then staff have a broader scope within which to work, and we probably will bring back, as the chair suggests, having a 2-tier system of minor versus major, but that gives us some latitude to, and just out of the weeds at the start of things anyway.
okay, we need a motion and a second. Laura, and I guess I'll second. Thank you. Okay, Paul, back to you.
We need
Feasibility
to
of,
vote on that.
Oh, we got to vote.
We do need to vote.
Oh,
after
sorry,
have the
we
first
do
and
need
second,
vote.
So we make sure we cover
Okay.
ourselves.
All in
thank you.
favor?
One of those days. Okay,
Okay. Yep.
Carrie.
Carrie, thank you. Oh. Okay, Paul, back to you about feasibility of Heritage Conservation District.
Sure. So that's under Section 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act, where instead of designating a property based on its individual attributes, there may be a pattern of settlement, pattern of buildings, pattern of historic use of properties that not only based on built heritage, but on cultural heritage, forms a significant cultural heritage asset that municipality may want to maintain going forward as such. So it might mean a complex of buildings or complex of buildings and streets. It might involve open space areas like civic squares and such, that whole pattern of settlement on a historical basis is deemed to be of cultural significance, worth conserving. And so those municipalities will lay down Heritage Conservation District designation by bylaw, and within which even buildings that aren't individually considered heritage significant, that when they are renovated or rebuilt, etc., are expected to contribute to the patterns of that area. There is, the only reason I bring it forward on the agenda is there is reference to our official plan to it, and I know DM Wills has looking at the feasibility of it relatively recently, since I've been here since my arrival. Having such a designation is not for the faint of heart. Normally you amend the official plan to bring it in, or you just do a bylaw under the Imperial Heritage Act. It is appealable. So you need to have that background study to demonstrate a rational basis for what we're doing, and then pass your bylaw and your policies and your procedures, etc. And then after you move through the appeals, if there are some, and these things do create some attention, and so an appeal is a possibility, then you have a heritage permit system under conservation district as well. And so when development happens in that district, look for two things. Is it a site-specific heritage designation? And if not, then you just rely on the conservation district standards and guidelines, or you may be looking at both at staff level, considering any kind of a approval. And then you look at whether is it a minor approval or a major approval. And sometimes you need to bring in some specialist, an architect who has a strong background in heritage considerations. So yeah, it can get really involved. But I just thought, since it's been found its way in our official plan, I'm thinking, gee, it must have been some topic of public engagement discussions. And perhaps someone's felt that there might be feasibility for such, that it might be worth while discussing as a committee. And if something like that is of interest to the committee, then we can, and the next step is maybe help with probably closest resource I'm familiar with is ERA, former ERA staff who now have their own office, husband-wife team in Picton, branch architecture, with some strong backgrounds in heritage. I think they found their original work was in the area of heritage. So we could perhaps ask one of them to attend and speak on the feasibility or benefit of a conservation district if the committee wants to take that next step.
Okay. Paul, last year we had a urban neighborhood study, and the Heritage District came up in our discussions about the neighborhood study that just looked at the traditional urban area of the town of Brighton, and that it might be a good idea to plan possibly in the fall to invite a representative that has some work with the Heritage Conservation District idea, and being regionally local, they'll know what's of interest to local populace and that. But I think we may not be ready yet, but we may need to acknowledge that it's part of the master plan for the municipality, that we will be working on it. Any other comments?
I would be interested in hearing from ERA. I think that'd be very useful. And again, as Robert pointed out, there was a mature neighborhood study that was just completed and, identified the areas that were identified in the municipality that had some sort of value to the community. In the past, we've also had branding exercises, that sort of thing, and it always comes to the same type of area, and I wonder if you don't do something like that, if you're doing everything in pieces, and growth, I mean, it's going to happen. We know that from the Places to Grow plan. And so there's intensification that'll be happening in that core district that's been identified. So it's something that, we really should give serious consideration for moving forward, for sure. That's my comment.
I think it would be good to hear from them and just like to educate ourselves about it as far as what the possibilities are. Don't have to make a decision on it today or tomorrow, obviously, but just look to learning more about it so that when the decision does come up, we're informed, council's informed, we have an idea of really what we're doing, right? You don't want to do it hastily. Want to make sure it's going to work in this community. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. It's a very good idea. Perhaps we even maybe have open up our meeting ahead of time and have some of the local interest groups, like maybe Soho or something like that, might want to participate, or just be invited to come in and hear from the consultant or expert. Okay, so is there something we need to pass on to council about this, or is there just have it carry over to future business?
Yeah, I think if you're not going to be requesting anyone to come in until the fall, which is probably wise, then it can just be, we'll add it to the next agenda item tracking, and we'll follow up then.
Perhaps we can contact the company in Picton and see if they have a suggestion to prepare ourselves ahead of time, because I'd like to hear what they have to say. But if we can all come into a meeting more informed of what they'd like to hear from us, we might get even more accomplished at that time. Okay, well, let's carry that over for a future meeting. Perhaps a September meeting might be useful, or October, if we're taking some summer meetings off.
Well, should we invite them to come in the fall, or just leave it? How are we going to?
Paul, have you talked directly with them, or just through email?
I haven't talked with them directly about it at all, but I think we should have sufficient lead time if we're looking at September or October, and I can contact them and ask them maybe to be a delegation to the committee in September.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
That would probably be a good idea. Give them a heads up, and
I'll share with them the mature neighborhood study.
Great.
That's good. Okay. So should we go on to 7.3 in the agenda, grants, loans for restoration work? I'm not familiar with this. I think it's Paul, back to you.
Sure, we can take one of two or maybe both approaches, but we only probably follow one, and that is the Ontario Heritage Act allows for municipalities to provide some financial support needed to, or identified as a need to assist landowners in maintaining their heritage properties. They can be very expensive properties to own and maintain. So there's some places that offer certain types of grants that are meant to specifically deal with repair and restoration. And those form of financial assistance can be either loans or grants or loans. They can also be tax relief. And the tax relief normally gets done, I think you can do it on Ontario Heritage Act, but I think the other option is under the Planning Act, Section 28, as a community improvement plan. So that's the other tack that can be taken. We're currently drafting a community improvement plan for other matters, such as affordable housing and brownfields. So it might be a good time to provide at least a very basic policy framework for supporting heritage properties from the transfer loans or tax relief.
A previous member of this committee did quite an extensive search on the property tax relief.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just need to find it. I need to dig it out of my papers. It may still be with it, the minutes somewhere, but it was very well done. And yeah, the program is applied elsewhere and successfully, but yeah, there's very few grants right now for heritage designated properties. I know the federal government's just come out with one for insulation and that type of thing, but that's not specific to, that's just any property, I suppose, but specific to heritage, there isn't too many. So the property tax relief has been really beneficial for other communities. So maybe we should find his reports and see what he came up with, and maybe that's something we might move forward with.
I think that would be a good starting point.
Laura, were you on the committee then?
I'm trying to remember back. Do you remember approximately when?
Gordon Toby did the report.
So no, I wasn't there yet. So it was before.
Okay. That was Mary, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we have an approximate date or year, we may be able to search those minutes.
Yeah.
That's what
I'll
I'm
go
thinking.
through my papers and see what I can find. And I'll let you know.
But yeah, again, another good idea, Paul. So thank you for bringing these sorts of things. These are sorts of things we need to talk about and start seeing what we can implement as a now, and the recommendations as a committee.
I was just going to ask you, Paul, do you know if the like tax rebate idea is typically used in situations where there isn't a program like you're suggesting, or is there cases where both can exist together?
Yes, they're commonly combined.
Okay.
Yeah, it just depends on the nature of the budgeting and the nature of the priorities.
Okay. Sounds like that that's going to be a carryover to future meeting. Hopefully the minutes are available digitally. Perhaps we all could reread them, because I joined the committee after Gordon Toby also, so I'm not familiar with that report. If we
I'll
can
look
find-
into it as soon as the meeting is over, and if I find it, I'll circulate it.
Thank you. Okay. Was there anything else on previous business we needed to?
Yeah, Robert,
Yeah.
we earlier talked about the cleaning of the plaques, and now that Paul is here, I don't know if he has any suggestions from other places, or whether, something staff can do. But we were talking earlier, Susan brought it up, that some of the plaques look like they're faded, or just whether they have a film on them that we have around town. If there's a way for us to restore them a little bit, clean them. I don't know, Paul, I don't know if you've experienced that before. But we just wanted to maintain these plaques that we put money into.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that issue. I've never encountered that before, but it's an important point. Hopefully the landowners would be motivated to pride their plaques and polish them up a bit once in a year. But I wonder if it's just a matter of someone giving them a call and saying it would be nice if.
Well, the examples we had were Memorial Park and Memory Junction, actually, the Grand Trunk Railway Station plaque that has new owners. So Memorial Park is staff concern. And I guess we could call over to George Hamilton, but if we don't have a plan how to restore them, how to clean them, he may suggest that he'd like some suggestions how to do it. So I suggested earlier, perhaps it's just like a buff polish and a power buffer for automobiles, and just go over the surface, because it's a polymer or a fiberglass acrylic top on the plaques. We should be able to buff out any scratches that way.
Yeah, becoming more technical than I first appreciated, and it might be good to confirm what is an appropriate method.
Yeah, well, I think Tom's going to try to contact the plaque provider and see if they have a restoration. A quick email, and they might be able to help us out.
Excellent.
Okay. Tom, do you have anything coming up, or anything we need to talk about?
No, that's everything I'm seeing that we had on this agenda anyway.
Okay. Let's just take a couple minutes. People have been talking about, they moved a couple more cars off of Memory Junction this past week. And from what I understand, it may be late July that there's going to be a second auction at Memory Junction. But the auctioneer hasn't confirmed a date yet. So that's coming over the summer. I haven't heard anything else going. When we get to the walking tour, we may have the White House participating as a location. officially. I have to talk to them in the next week. Hopefully they'll allow some acknowledgement of the White House as a historic site and allow us to have a little more information and still respect their privacy, because it is now still a private residence. But has anybody heard anything else going on? Somebody said that there was a projected plan for development down on Price Street in Gosport near one of the heritage plaques. Do we need
I
to?
didn't hear that.
No, I haven't heard that either.
No.
Okay, well,
For the record, in order for us to have these discussions, they have to actually be part of our agenda.
Okay.
So we do need to announce on our agenda, or, that because we're a committee of council, that we are going to have these discussions. So if there are areas of interest that we want to talk about, and that also gives Paul time to prepare if there are areas that we want to talk about, that he can, because right now we can ask these questions and he may have no idea. But certainly if we want to talk about maybe adding them to another agenda, Tom, would that be the right way to go about it if there's areas of concern? Is that what we should maybe do at this point?
Yeah, that's the best thing, because like you're saying, even for me, while you're talking about it, if something really, if we got into a full conversation, there's not really a way for me to minute that, because it's not part of the existing agenda. So it's best if we can do that, establish that obviously before the meeting, or in the approval of the agenda section, so that we can add it and then have that discussion and then properly.
Okay, all right, I stand corrected, and it's one of those things. Today I'm learning something more.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to stop the conversation. I just want to make sure we do everything in accordance to how we're supposed to, and that we're not just throwing something on there that we haven't, been prepared to talk about.
It's appreciated, Laura. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we're
Meeting. How's with the shutdown? How's that working?
Well, right now we're subject to the Ontario reopening plan, I think that's called. So we haven't obviously entered stage 1 yet. Yeah, it'd be really hard to put a date on any time that we'd be meeting in person. I would hope we might be able to this summer, but it's hard to say, right? So I guess the big question is, how are you guys feeling about a meeting in the summer, or that kind of thing?
We've standardly either taken July off or an August off on previous years. Is there anything immediately needs to be done that we need to meet in the next month, that maybe we give us some breathing space and we meet in the first week in August, which would be an August 2nd, or probably August 9th, because the first Monday in August would be a stat holiday. Any suggestions?
I think that probably sounds wise, but it's up to you, up to the committee, of course.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think August 9th sounds good to me.
Okay. Tom, will that conflict with any other committees? Because it will be a Monday, but do you have anything?
Nope, that looks good on my end too.
Okay, so how about we have a do we need a motion and vote on August 9th or just an agreement?
Just consensus is fine.
Consensus. Okay. Perhaps David will be available to attend, and Paul, this will give you some time to contact Picton group and maybe suggest for October for them. Okay. Do we have an emotion for an adjournment? Laura and Ron, seconds. Okay, and Susan?
No, thank you. That's good.
Okay. All right. Can we have a vote on that?
Yeah, adjournment.
Adjournment. Okay. Thank you. This was a little rougher than last one, but maybe next one will be better.
I think you did great, Robert.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't rough at all.
Yeah.
no
Thank you.
pressure, no pressure.
Yeah. We could go back to the old days and we could have another 3-hour meeting, but I was hoping not for that.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Make that a motion.
Okay.